All right, welcome to the pre-show. If you're watching this in the replay, you can fast forward about 14 minutes or so, and you'll be at the beginning of this. You can look for the big thing with the stuff on it. Hope that helps. In the meantime, it's the pre-show, and I am pre-showing, getting things ready to go. And what else do I need to do? Oh, we need to edit a page. I was in the midst of that. The midst. Let's update that. Very nice. Let's update our banner at the top of their website. What link is that? It's this one. Let's see. Freakers is right now. Click here to join us. And you should click to go to relay/live. That's all you need. Don't use the countdown. And reset my cookie. Save my changes. Okay. Let's see if we really are live, because that would be the real interesting thing, is if we are not even, live and stuff. All my little things here say that I'm live, but am I really? And how do I sound? What is that about? Oh, let's see if we really are live, because that would be... See? We really are. Okay. Although I'm not sure you can hear me listening to me. Yeah, I guess you can, because you're not coming inbound that way. Because of my my mixer and the way that it is able to do the cancellation of the inbound to the outbound. Okay, that's good. That is good. There's the rain coming. It may be very rainy before this thing is over with. It's coming. It's heading this way. It'll be here. I don't know. I might be able to get through the study group before it starts raining. We'll see what happens. All right, let's go to our list, shall we? And what have I forgotten to do? So let's have a look. Where's the main page of this thing? There's not a main page. Give me a new window. There we go. And I should call this thing checklist. There it is. Okay, just before event, update TriCaster with stream information, which I've done, or you would not be seeing this. Update website banner with live information, which I just did. All right. What else is going on? Hello, chat room. If you're just start a job and it overwhelms you, then you're doing it right. If you start a job and it did not overwhelm you, you would have chosen very wrong. Let's, okay, Scrative is running. Oh, let's do cameras. Camera time. Camera time. Hi, everybody. Camera time. Camera 2. Camera 3 with my head in it. Camera 4 with my head in it. All right, that all works. Do we have a presentation? Let's get a presentation going. Shall we? Let's go to the keynote and let's have it find another keynote device. And we got a green light and it works and it's alive. So now if we go to camera 4, look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Oh my God. Okay. How are we doing on time? We got 9 minutes. 9 minutes. I could probably go for a natural throat lozenge, slippery elm. Okay. Temperature is good. It looks a little rainy out there. I've got the window open, the sliding door open so I can look outside, which I rarely do because it's so bright. You can kind of even see, outside the door there on the right-hand side of the picture, right? There is the outside. It's normally dark there. But since it's not bright out, I can leave that open to do this. Okay, the slippery elm it's the opposite of slippery. It's nice. Okay. Me. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Audio. Okay. Let's start recording stuff now so that I don't later. All right. That's recording. We got a bunch of recordings going on. All up in here. Okay. All right. I guess that's it. It's all working. Hey, how are we do? There we go. Now we can see people's responses. A lot of Ireland checking in today. What's up with that? My people. I did one of those DNA tests. I got a bunch of Europe there, and a little bit of Africa. A little snuck in there. A little bit there. Fascinating. Socrative.com. Click the student login. Go to room Professor Messer, all one word. Spell it right. For my study groups, it's usually straight gin. No, it's usually a hot beverage of some type. It's either a coffee or sometimes hot chocolate. Today it is a Pete's Major Dickinson coffee. Pete's Major Dickinson. Yes, for answering, you go to, where's my slide? I have a slide for this. Slide is, where's my slide? I'll bring up a slide. During the pre-show, go camera 4. Wonder if I should just I should probably stop with the stuff. I love me some Pete's coffee. It's from when I used to go out to California all the time. And I got hooked. It's all hooked up. Hooked on it. Where are we going here? What am I on? I'm on V4. Okay. What else? I think we're good. I'm waiting in 5 seconds. I should get the email and Twitter and YouTube and Google Plus blasts go off. Let's see what happens, shall we? All right. Boom. Look at that. Like a 4-second delay, and boom, it hits. The little circle, little Cylon looking thing down there, that's my recorder. It's a Black Magic is the name of the company. And it's a, what's it called? It's called a Black Magic Hyper Deck. It's an Hyper Deck. Oh, I'm very married. I'm super married. I am locked in. You can tell because I'm sitting in a room by myself right now. It's the easiest way to tell. Blah, 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 blah. What else are we doing here? So the Twitter feed, the Twitter thing went out. The Facebook thing went out. People are tuning in to Socrative. We can flip back over to here now. welcome if you're here. We'll be starting at the top of the hour with the thing and the stuff to be there. I've got some pretty good questions. This month. Questions this month were a little different than most. People asked for some different things. So it tends to be that way. Sometimes you get all the subjects sort of leaning one direction. I try to lean them the other direction, and sometimes it doesn't work that way. But we do what we can. It's all good. It's all good. It's all working. It is not raining yet. Where's our rain? Did I remove the rain view? I guess I did. Get rid of the radar weather stations. I just want radar. Where is it? Where's the rain? There it is. It's coming my way. It's coming. Oh, isn't that great? Get a little stream notification. Hey, this guy went live. So you've been sitting here for 15 minutes. Sorry. Oh, so good. You've completed the latest activity, which means you're locked in. You're one of these answers here, which we will get to at the very beginning of the study group. You're welcome to propose. Send your pictures. Somebody needs a green card. Whatever. We'll work it. I don't think they allow you to do that anymore, do they? Marry somebody? I think you have to know them first, and there's a whole thing. I don't know. How would I know? I married a Canadian living in Miami. What do I know about this? Yeah, I worked a lot out in California, so there are a lot of people there from outside the country trying to get in the country, and it was a whole thing. I couldn't even get my head wrapped around it. There was just too much going on there. There's a lot of moving parts. I don't even pretend to figure that out. We're coming to you from the headquarters, the world headquarters of Messer Studios in Tallahassee, Florida, which means the temperature here is a balmy 70 degrees Fahrenheit. 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Somebody want to do the math on that one? What is it right now? It's 54 in New York. It's 39 in Edinburgh. There is 57 in Atlanta. So 72 right here at the studios. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. We're coming up on the beginning of this thing, shall we? This is the VIP access to the studio. This is as close as you get to the VIP access. You can't even see. There's no other chairs in here. So that's it. Plus, it's at my house, so that wouldn't be creepy at all. I bet a lot of meetings. I bet a lot of fees, and I bet a lot of forms. I bet it's a thing. Worth every moment. Okay. We will talk all about participating in the Q&A when we start. Effectively, you will be going to Socrative.com to the. Somebody want to put that in the link in the event chat? It would be really delightful of you. Oh, I guess we have to get started now because it's top of the hour. I didn't even get to talk about all the things. I could talk about Grease Live. That was the big thing this weekend. Don't watch television at all. So anytime I watch television, it's an event. But now it's time for this event. And so are we recording? We're recording. We've got a thing here. You're in the chat room. It's time to go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Professor Messer's live A+ study group for February of 2016. We're already into February. This is usually the first study group we do in the month. So this is the time I have to remember what month it is, because normally I'm locked in my little studio not knowing what time of day it is, what day of the month it is. So it's great. Now we're having this study group, first one of the month, and it's all about A+. I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to give me answers. We're going to go through an hour of this Q&A. In the second hour, it's usually kind of an after show. I'll open up the phone lines. You can call in. You can put information into the chat room that I'll read. And that's what we've been doing the last 15 minutes or so. If you follow us on the pre-show, you can always join us live at professormesser.com/live. And I'm looking at the chat room. There's a live event chat. That's the name of the chat room on my website. Go to professormesser.com/live or any other page on Professor Messer. And right there at the bottom is a live chat that you can participate in. And I can see all of you there with the links and the things and the stuff going by. And usually it's where we always communicate back and forth during the chat just to keep me honest with these things. We've got a lot to go through this month. You've been great about sending all of your questions in. Later on, I'm going to open up the phone lines. There's the studio line there, 855-785-RJ45. Remember that you can also watch this live, and if you subscribe, as they even said in the chat room earlier today, when I turn on these streams, you get a notification that the stream is live. You go to professormesser.com/YouTube to do that. Also, don't forget about my daily pop quiz question. Every weekday, I put a pop quiz question out there about A+, and let's see how well you know your A+, and you can find out really the best way to be notified there is on the Twitter. Go to professormesser.com/Twitter. Twitter's still there, right? They haven't gotten rid of Twitter yet, right? Maybe. This week was an interesting one for the folks at Twitter, so we'll have to see. And don't forget about the vouchers. If you're going to take an exam, don't pay full price for your vouchers. Get a discount at professormesser.com/vouchers. If you already have your A+ certification, you can watch this and get continuing education units. That's one of the things you're doing to renew and maintain your certification. And it's whether this is live or whether it's a replay. For those of you that have been waiting for me to send out CEUs, I've been very bad about doing that this past week, but be patient. I will get those back to you as soon as I can. Probably be this afternoon, as a matter of fact, because usually you give me a lot of CEU notifications today. If you are going to ask for the CEU sometime during this hour, I'm going to give you a key phrase, a code word, a special piece of information, and you're going to send that to me. So be sure to listen in during this first hour for that special continuing education unit keyword so that you can get credit for watching this. Very useful to have that there. So this is why we're here, is the A+ certifications. As many of you are aware, a new edition of the A+ certification was released on December the 15th. So a couple months ago, month and a half ago, we had a brand new edition, the 901 and the 902 exams. Now, the 801 and the 802 are still available. You can take them until June the 30th. So right now we're in this interesting phase where you could take the new exam or you could take the old exam. But the point is, if you've already been studying for the old exam, you can continue the studying process. They don't cut you off, so you can't so you'd lose all that study time. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So one of the advantages here is that you can take either set of exam and you get exactly the same certification. Exactly the same. So that's always nice to be able to decide which one you want to take, and the piece of paper you get at the end is identical. Nobody even knows which edition you took. You just have an A+ certification and you're good to go. So if you are already A+ certified, you don't have to take the new set. I mean, you could take both of those exams to renew. That seems like an awfully difficult part to process to go through just to renew your certification. There are much easier ways to renew. So if you've already got your A+, just because there's a new exam out means nothing to your certification necessarily. So that's always great to have that there. I also want to thank everyone who supports my offline course. I have both my 800 series and my 901 series offline course available now, which includes offline videos, MP3 files. My course notes are included with this. If you've already purchased my course notes, I even give you a discount so that you aren't spending additional money to do that. This also, on the 800 series, has transcripts and closed captions, and those will be added also to the new edition as well. So that's very useful to have that there. The 900 series, the 901 is what we're through. I should be through the 902 videos probably this month. I'm looking forward to that. So I will have both the 901 and the 902 available, but I'm selling these separately. So you can buy just the 901 now and buy the 902 separately, which should help a lot of people with their studies. Now, I talked earlier today about Q&A, and that I'm going to ask you questions and you're going to answer them. Well, this is how you answer them. Go to Socrative.com, open up a new tab on your browser and go to Socrative.com, or you can download the Socrative app onto your Android, iOS, or Windows mobile device. Download the student app because you're the student, and then you will put in for the room name Professor Messer. Make sure you get that room name absolutely correct. If you don't, you'll be in a room by yourself. If you do put the name in properly, you will see a question like this. How long have you been studying for your A+ certification? On my side, I see this information. So I see how long have you been studying for your A+ certification, and I see how less than 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, more than 9 months, or I already have my A+ certification. And you can see, as things usually are at the beginning of the year, 44% of us have been studying for less than 3 months. So a lot of new people in doing this, but 13% of us already have their cert. And then you got people like me that take more than 9 months to study for a certification. I take forever to study for a certification. So absolutely do that. There's 18% of you are in the same boat as me with that. So as we go through this today, I'm going to be asking you the questions and you'll be able to answer online. Just leave your window or your phone right there where it is, and this will automatically cycle through to the next question when we get to it. So without further ado, actually I do have one more ado before we do that. As a reminder, we're going to go through both 800 and 900 series material today. Most of this will apply to both, but if I go through a question that does not directly correlate back to an 801, 802, or a 901, 902, I'll try to make sure you're available to that, that you're aware of that, because that's going to be an important consideration. So let's do a question, shall we? Let's go. If you're waiting for me, you should be able to see information on the screen right now as I click, and you should have a question up that says, which of these tools would be the best choice to view the wiring map of a network drop? So if you're sitting in a room and waiting for a teacher to start the activity, you're in the wrong room. Make sure you go to Socrative.com to the room name Professor Messer, and make sure you type in Professor Messer, all one word with that. That will be your best way to be able to answer this particular question. Now, I have options for you. So it's a choice of a number of different things. Is it a cable tester, a toner probe, a loopback plug, a punch down tool, or a crossover cable? We have to know these tools, and all of these are really great networking tools to use, but only one would really be the best choice. Notice how I phrase this. You should be accustomed to seeing these types of phrases because this is what you'll probably get on your exam. You'll be asked for the best choice. You'll be asked for the best option. And again, here I'm asking you the same thing, the best choice to be able to do this. You have to choose in this list the best choice. There might be more than one answer to this, but only one is really the best answer. Now, the advantage that you're going to have on the exam is that it will really show up. If you know your material, it will be obvious which one is the best. They don't try to trick you. There's not questions that are sort of the best. It's not one where you're going to have to make a 50-50 decision. It will be very obvious on your exam when you do this. So make sure you're aware of that when working through it. So you should be able to go through this and figure out which would be the best choice to view the wiring map of a network drop. Now, if you're in answering this question and been working with this is kind of one of these questions where it really helps to have some experience in networking. And it's difficult because the A+ exam has this section on networking on the 801 and on the 901. And it's difficult to know some of these things unless you've been working with them. So this will be a good chance to really see how we know our materials. Let's see how we did. 47% said toner probe would be the best choice to view the wiring map. Close behind it at 36% is cable tester, and then it drops off pretty well to loopback plug, and hardly anybody said punch down tool or crossover cable. Well, I think it would be useful to know a couple of things. First, it would be nice to know what a wiring map is. Notice how I'm giving you these things in the question. I try to make a couple steps in the question for you to get through these things. And the first step is you have to know what a wiring map is. And then from there, you have to know what tool is going to be able to help you with a wiring map. And from my perspective, I think by far the best choice for this is going to be a cable tester. A cable tester is, it tells you really the basics of a continuity test, which means if I connect to a wire on this side and I connect to a wire on this side, are they connected to each other? Do I have an electrical signal that I can pass between them? If the cable's broken in the middle, I won't have continuity. If this wire is going somewhere else, then I clearly won't have continuity. It's a great way for wiring to tell what pins are connected to what pins on a cable, a network cable, a serial cable, parallel cable, any type of cable you might run into. It also can identify when maybe you didn't punch down things properly. There's a missing pin. Maybe you've crossed over wires. So pin 1 is connecting to pin 2 on the other side, and pin 2 is connecting to pin 1 on the other side. Done that before many, many times. And a cable tester is great for pointing that out and showing you, no, these are not connected to each other. But that's about where the functionality of a cable tester ends. If you wanted to know how well is the signal going across this wire, how well is the communication, how much crosstalk are we getting between point A and point B? How much signal loss are we getting between point A and point B? That's not necessarily a cable tester. In fact, it's rarely a cable tester. Cable testers are generally relatively simple in the way that they operate. It's going to show you one type of thing. In fact, if you look very closely, you can even see it really just has 8 lights, and this one actually supports putting a ground light in there too. So on the other side is the same thing. So when you plug this in, it effectively lights up. Does pin 1 connect to pin 1? Does pin 2 connect to pin 2? Does pin 3 connect to pin 3? So it's going to tell you right away the continuity. Notice it doesn't tell you how well the cable is. It doesn't tell you what type of job you might have done with your punch down. It doesn't tell you if the cable you're using is the right type. All it tells you is that pin 1 talks to pin 1, pin 2 talks to pin 2. So if we look at the answers that we did get, which of these tools would be the best choice for viewing to view the wiring map of a network drop? Toner probe would not be the right answer, although most of us chose toner probe. Toner probe is useful to be able to find the other end of the cable, but it tells you nothing about the wiring map. And that's the special word in this particular question, is the wiring map, and knowing how the cable is mapped out on both sides. Pins 1 through 8 connect to where on the other side. That's a wiring map. A toner probe is really just helping you find the cable, which sometimes is the most important part of the entire piece. So it would not be toner probe. It would not be a loopback plug. We use loopback plugs on a single device. We plug it in, and everything we send out of an interface is simply looped back into the interface. Now, why would you do that? Why would you send it out to only send it back to you? Well, that's to test the interface itself. If I'm sending information out of the interface, I should be receiving everything I'm sending back, and I should be receiving it in the way that I sent it. And I can test that by sending it through a loopback plug. I can run software on that device to test that. Send everything out, send 10 packets, receive 10 packets. Are they all exactly the way I sent them, yes or no? So that would help you determine, am I having some type of physical problem with that particular interface? That's a good one. Punch-down tools are used to take wire and physically connect them to a punch-down block. So that doesn't really help us with identifying or viewing the wiring map of a network block. And a crossover cable is used to connect a transmit side to a receive side on the other side. So that's not the one that would really help me much with that either. So if you answered A, cable tester, 36% of you got that one absolutely right. Well done. And if you didn't get it absolutely right, now you've learned something. So you're going to get that one right in your exam. Even better, I think. Let's do another question, shall we? Make sure you do not answer in the chat room. Make sure you go to Socrative.com to answer the question, which is, which of these should be used to avoid any inadvertent power outages? Which I might need today because it looks like it's going to rain. And if it rains, I might need to avoid an inadvertent power outage. So see if you know what this might be. I have a few options for you, of course. Would it be a surge suppressor? Would it be a power inverter? Would it be an auto switching power supply? Would it be a multimeter? Would it be a UPS? It's got to be one of those, right? All of those are powered like devices. So one of them is going to be the right answer. You think you know what the right answer might be? No answering in the chat room. Go to Socrative.com to the room named Professor Messer. If you don't see this question when you go to Socrative.com into that room, then you've probably typed the room name incorrectly. You might want to try a different room for that to make sure you get there so you can answer this particular question. I think this is something that very useful in my world especially. I've got a lot of rain heading my direction today, and I was bringing up the map in the pre-show and showing that, I've got something going on. So I'm very concerned today about what might be happening. In fact, where's the rain? There's the rain. So if you're anywhere near Messer Studios, you may be seeing some of this rain come my way. So I'm very concerned about inadvertent power outages. So I need to take advantage of one of these technologies in my studio. Which one is it? Which one is it? That's really the question you really run into, is being able to understand, how am I going to know which one of these it might be? Well, let's see how we did. Let's see how we went through with this one and being able to work through these pieces. I think if we click how do we do, I think we did pretty well with this one. If you go into this question, look at it, there's a lot of different power sources in here. 84% of you said UPS, but is it really UPS? That's a lot there for 84% of you to be answering. So let's see what the answer might be on this one. This is a technology I absolutely have working for me. This is an uninterruptible power supply. That's what the UPS is. And that is going to provide you with power. It's going to be a battery-based power system in almost every case. There's a very big, this is an industrial UPS picture that you see here with just a battery after battery after battery all plugged in, which means that if we lose power, everything goes through there to find out what happened there. Let's get power running and keep it up and running so that it's uninterruptible as the power supply. There's a lot of different kinds of UPS systems you may see and different features associated with the UPS systems. There is a big description of this in my video where I talk about these power systems for the A+. In my studio, I don't think you can see it. In my studio, let me move out of the way. I can't move out of the way because of a microphone. But down here in a rack, out of camera range, in my rack down here at the bottom, let's see here. I have a UPS. There's my UPS down here at the very bottom. So this UPS I have here is a smart UPS RT2200, which is more than enough to power. In fact, if I look at the load here of the 5 lights I have on the front, it's hard for you to see there, but only 2 lights are really lit. So, which is exactly the way I want it. I want about 50% utilization on my UPS here. If I lost power right now, this entire system would remain running, and it remains running for a good bit of time. Get my chair back on the rollers here. It stays up and running for quite some time. So everything is plugged into that UPS. I have multiple power distribution units in my systems here, very similar to the multiple power distributions that you might have in an enterprise. So all of these power distribution systems are really just power strips. And they are power strips that are actually connected to the network, so I can connect to them from my front end here and turn on and off anything that's in the studio. Well, by connecting them to UPS, everything is now on battery backup. And if you're going to be working in any environment where you want to avoid power outages, you're going to want a UPS. So if you answered E, UPS, 84% of you got that one absolutely right. Well done with that one and being able to work through all of those different ideas. Knowing these UPS systems is a big part of both the 801 and the 901, so you're going to need that regardless of what you do in your setup and being able to work through those. That exam's pretty important in knowing those pieces. Another important part of both exams is mobile devices. And in the 900 series exams, there's certainly more of an emphasis in mobile devices. So make sure that you know about those. So I put a mobile device question on the pop quiz. So this is really a 900 series question, but I think it's useful to know this also for the 800 series as well. We should be able to answer this one. The question is, which of these network types would be the best choice for mobile device payments? This is one that becomes very popular. I'm seeing all the commercials on television, the advertising online, all about the mobile device payments. If you think you know, go to Socrative.com to the Professor Messer room, and you can answer this one. For those of you that are in the chat wondering, am I in the right chat room? You are. Is this the A+ chat? It is. If you're in the chat room, you're in good shape to be able to work through those. Make sure you don't mention in the chat what the answer might be. The idea is that you need to think about taking this as an actual certification test. So you should be able to answer these questions as if you are sitting there for the test. Which one of these network types would be the best? Would it be 802.11ac? Would it be infrared? Would it be NFC? Would it be Bluetooth? Would it be FireWire? It's got to be one of these. They're all network types. We got to know which one of these network types would it be in here. So try to go through this piece and figure out those, and being able to work through those pieces, I think, are the important part of this. Try to figure out which ones it isn't first, and then you'll be able to answer which one it happens to be. Now, if you don't see this, you're in Socrative and it just says waiting for instructor, then you're in the wrong room. Get out of that room and go to the room that is specifically called Professor Messer, all one word. Make sure you spell it right, Professor Messer. I really need to make that an easier word to spell, don't I? That's just how it worked out. That's just how the domain name and everything else worked out. Sorry about that. Now, if you're in general chat right now, the folks that are in the other chat room are not there. So make sure that you go through that piece and figure it out. I think whenever I start working through these as well, I'm trying to get through all of the answers and answer them the best way that I think I know. And if I can start getting rid of some of those, it would be great. So I think you can probably do that too with this one. Let's see how we do with this one. Let's go back to the answers here. How do we do? Let's find out. Well, we're kind of got a big one here, but I still have some double digits up here. 64% said NFC, but 19%, almost 20% said 802.11ac. And then it kind of drops off from there. You can kind of see others there that are working through those pieces. Let's see how we did, which one of these it would be, and working through these, especially with things like mobile device payments, which is an incredibly popular set of technologies right now. Some of the very popular wireless interface standards that you'll see, and one that's actually in more use than it used to be, is infrared. Infrared had a very popular beginning back in the day, as they say, back whenever that day was, where we had printers that were infrared. We had all kinds of different things that we were using for infrared. But I think one of the pieces that was really the biggest problem with it is that it was line of sight, and you had to be pretty close. But you didn't have to have any wires. I could have just at the time we didn't have USB, so every cable was different on the printers. It was a little bit more of a problem. These days, infrared is great on your mobile phones because you can control media devices. You can sit in your living room and control your television through your phone. And a lot of Android phones have infrared. If you're running iOS on Apple hardware, you don't have infrared. So sorry, doesn't work very good for you. But if you've got Android, that may be an option for you, which is great. What a great way to take advantage of this device that's connected to us all the time anyway. Another thing you can do is to use near-field communication. Near-field communication almost exclusively these days for doing mobile device payments. That's really so useful. So the infrared is something, probably I would say the most widely used network interface in the world, I would say, is probably infrared. How you like that? Because everybody's television and cable box and media device uses infrared. It's one of the most popular methods of communicating in the world. But NFC is becoming so popular. You've probably seen the commercials on television. People are just putting their phones up to these mobile payment devices and they're paying for them. You just get your phone close to it. You have to be really close to be able to do that. NFC is a great way to pay for things now because it's so fast. It's built into all these phones that we're using these days. Very useful to do that. So if you're one of the folks that answered C, NFC, then you got that one absolutely correct. Very useful to have that too. I like the NFC functionality and the things we're doing with it. NFC is just one of the things that you have to know on your A+ certification exam. There's so many things you have to know on your A+ certification exam, and I put everything into my courses. That's one of the things that I worked really hard to do is I went word for word through the CompTIA exam objectives with excruciating detail so that I would be able to go to those pieces and really see what it was that you needed to know. I try not to deviate at all from those exam objectives. So of course, whenever you're looking through the exam objectives and trying to figure out what you need to know, my videos are really right on the money. I don't go outside of the exam objectives, and I try to cover everything that's on the exam objectives word for word. I really go through them in excruciating detail. But a lot of you have said, well, that's just a lot of information for me to have to memorize and have to write down. I can make my own notes from your videos, which you're certainly welcome to do, or I made notes for you. These are my course notes, and I've tried to take every piece of information from every video and put them into these. In many cases, I've taken these pictures myself. I've created my own graphics. I've tried to make it so that everything on here would be a unique perspective to content that is on the A+ certification exam. And I've tried to also make it so that it's affordable. So $10 a course. So if you're taking the 801, the 802, the 902, it's a $10 set of course notes. And it depends on which one which course you're taking. Make sure you get the right set to be able to have those. Very useful to have them, I think. I like the course notes. They're a good reference point. So they're not designed to replace a book. They're not designed to replace a video. This is just another set of things you can use to help you get through the A+ exam where everything is all in one place. It's the Cliff's Notes of A+ certification information. They even still have Cliff's Notes anymore? Probably not. Whatever the latest version of Cliff's Notes is, that's the esoteric, odd, outdated reference that I'm going with there. And one nice part about this is that you get it immediately. It's all digital. It's a PDF file. You can put it on all of your devices. You can even print it out if you want to. And every dollar goes back to helping support the website and keep things running. You can find out all about it at professormesser.com/A+CN for A+ course notes, or just go to professormesser.com right on the front page. There's plenty of things there for that. I'm glad I'm not the only one who is dated through these odd references that I'm making with these pieces. So thanks for your support. Thanks for those of you that already have the course notes. It really goes a long way to keeping things running. I could not thank you enough for this. And find out more, professormesser.com/A+CN. Let's keep the party going here with more questions. I always have more questions. There's always something to go through. Remember, no answering in the chat room. And the question is, which of these would be the best choice for migrating from one operating system to another from the command line? This is a question that applies not only to the 802 exam, but also to the 902 exam. So it doesn't matter which one you're going after, you're going to need to know this particular answer. Now, the part of the challenge with Windows is there are many different ways to do exactly the same thing. So I'm asking a very specific question. Make sure you read, because the possible answers might be Windows Easy Transfer, User State Migration Tool, Windows Upgrade Advisor, Deployment Image Servicing and Management, or Windows Migration Services. One of these is going to be the right answer for this, but which one is it? Which one would be, let me see if I can scroll up just so my head's a little bit out of the way. There we go. Which of these would be the best choice for migrating from one operating system to another from the command line? This would be very useful, I think, if you're trying to do some migrations and being able to do them from the command line. I've done a number of Windows migrations in my lifetime. I just did one from Windows 8 to Windows 8.1. One of the most frustrating things you'll ever go through is that particular migration, because it doesn't work the way it ever did. We talk all about that in the 902 exam because we talk about Windows 8, obviously, in the 900 series exam. We don't talk about Windows 8 in the 800 series exam because it only goes up through Windows 7. But if you're studying for the 902 right now, you've heard me talk about Windows 8 to Windows 8.1 migration and some of those challenges. Not as easy as you might think it should be. Really bit of a problem trying to get that migrated properly. Those folks at Microsoft, they're just always making it easy to keep my job. That's what they're doing. A little bit more of a challenge to be able to make that happen. So let's see if you know the answer. If you do, make sure you go to Socrative.com to the Professor Messer room and see how we did. In fact, let's see how we did. I think we've had plenty of you. I want a few more in there to be able to vote before we go over there. Yeah, process of elimination. There's a couple here that there's at least one, maybe two of these that you could get rid of immediately and figure out those pieces of it. Let's see how we did. Let's click the button. Well, we're all over the place. Let's see. If we go with the number one, almost a tie for first, is User State Migration Tool and the Windows Migration Services. But we've got maybe tied for second, Windows Easy Transfer and Deployment Image Servicing and Management. And we got Windows Upgrade Advisor at a 6%. We could probably throw out C then as being one of the answers. It's probably going to be A, B, D, or E. But which one is it? We're kind of tied for first. I guess User State Migration Tool took a little bit of a lead, but still right behind it, Windows Migration Services. So let's talk about migrating from the command line. This is an incredibly useful capability if you're a system administrator that needs to migrate many systems simultaneously. It's very useful to have that there. It's one where I think whenever I start working through the intricacies of migration, nothing is easy with the migration. You need lots of backups. You need to know exactly what you're going from and what you're going to. You need to do a lot of testing beforehand. There's applications that you need to know about. But the User State Migration Tool is used if you need to do multiple machines simultaneously. Have someone start up this script or have them log in, and when they log in, it performs this particular command line migration. This allows you to, you can see all the different sources, allows you to migrate from Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, and Windows 8 to 8.1 to Windows Vista, Windows 7, and Windows 8 and 8.1. This is a really flexible tool. It comes with the Windows Automated Installation Kit, the AIK, which you will often hear talked about from a Microsoft perspective. And it's one that if you are in an enterprise that needs to do more than one or two of these at a time, very easy to set up the script to go, have it do the migration. It all works at the command line. What a great way to script everything else out and have it there. So that would be the User State Migration Tool. So that means if you answered B, User State Migration Tool, 35% of you got that one absolutely right. Well done with that. I think the User State Migration Tool is one that really does come in handy. Number two, the 27%, the Windows Migration Services, I made it up. It's not actually a thing. Doesn't exist. It's just I needed an E. I needed to answer E after going through A, B, C, and D are real things, and then I needed something else, so I made that one up at the end. Sorry. So it's not Windows Migration Services, although it sounds like an absolutely viable piece of technology, doesn't it? Why wouldn't we use that? Well, because it doesn't exist. If we go to number 3 on the list, I guess we are tied for 16. Windows Easy Transfer is also a very good way to migrate from one operating system to another, but it's not the command line. It's a graphical breakdown that allows you to graphically migrate from one system to another. And the Deployment Image Servicing and Management, the DISM, is a Windows console that allows you primarily to deploy applications. You can also deploy operating systems from there, yes, but it is not a command line function. That is all done in a Windows GUI. You're setting up some very interesting things. If you ever take my 7680 course, which is the Configuring Windows 7 course I have on my site, I do talk quite a bit about DISM in the deployment section, which was the very first section of that. And Windows Upgrade Advisor is something you would run in Windows prior to doing the upgrade to tell you if your machine is ready for the upgrade. It doesn't actually do the migration, though. It's just an informational tool. So if you answered B, User State Migration Tool, you got this one absolutely right. Well done. Well, I try to make these questions so that at least 50% of us get it right. So I kind of missed that one to be able to get that there. But now you know. And if you're asked anything about command line migration on your 802 or your 902 exam, you know it must be related to the User State Migration Tool. So well done with that. Let's do another question, shall we? Let's go through these pieces. I probably went a little bit farther than I should have here. So let's do this question here. Which of these would be the best choice for BitLocker, whatever that is? I always give you these questions of whatever that is. Do you ever notice that? I want you to see if you know what that term means and then how to apply it back. So which of these would be the best choice for BitLocker? Would it be to encrypt all of your outgoing email messages? Would it be to encrypt everything on a storage drive? Would it be to encrypt everything over a private tunnel between your laptop and your corporate office? Would it be to encrypt a set of project files on a network drive? Or would it be to encrypt a set of private files on your SSD? I suspect with this one, it has something to do with encryption. I don't know what's giving me that idea, but I have a feeling that's what it's associated with. So now we have to know if BitLocker is associated with encryption, what kind of encryption is BitLocker associated with? Maybe you know. So you can go and figure this out yourself and go through the process of knowing what BitLocker is and how it works. Maybe you do know, and you got this one. Some of you, I think, know this one right away. Remember, no answering in the chat room? But go ahead and see if you can get it answered there in the Socrative.com. Go to the Professor Messer room, and you too can go do that and work through those pieces. I love going through those as well and using those questions and trying to figure out which ones it isn't. And maybe you know also when working with BitLocker which one it isn't. It may not be that straightforward either. If you haven't used BitLocker before, you may find that it isn't as easy as you might think. So make sure you go through that and figure it out yourself as well. I think that'd be a useful task for you to go through. So let's see how you do with this one. I'm going to go back to the question. I'm going to take a sneak peek, as a matter of fact, and see how you guys are doing with this one. I think most of you know this answer. I have a sneaking suspicion that you happen to know what this one is. So let's see how we did. Which one of these would be the best choice for BitLocker? Well, 84% said encrypt everything on a storage drive, but is it? Have I thrown you a curveball again with this one? Probably not. I think it is probably encrypt everything on a storage drive. I gave you a lot of choices here for encrypting a lot of different kinds of things though, didn't I? BitLocker, clearly one of the best things you can use in Windows to encrypt everything that's on a drive. It's very secure. It's very easy to use. It's integrated into the operating system. There are certainly third-party tools that can do similar things, but it's nice to have this built in as part of Windows if you're using an edition of Windows that supports BitLocker. So you have to make sure you have one that can do that. Normally, if you're running Windows Home or one of the home-based versions of Windows, then probably no. You're not going to have really a need to do that. But that is helpful to be able to take everything that's on a drive and just encrypt everything, the operating system, all of your files. You don't even have to think about it. Everything is encrypted by default, which is great. If you've got a laptop, you're taking this off-site, and then something happens, you lose the laptop, your car's broken into, somebody steals it. It's not possible for you to be next to this device 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Somebody will steal it, but you know if you're running BitLocker that they're not going to have access to that data. Even if they take the drive out of the laptop, they put it into a dock, they still don't have access to the data because everything on the drive is encrypted. It's a beautiful thing, really. The data is always protected. You never have any concerns about this, which is why I think a lot of people love doing this. Being able to use BitLocker is to have that there. There's also a feature called BitLocker to Go. This is important to know for your 902 exam as well, where you can encrypt USB flash drives because it's so easy to lose these flash drives. You got these flash drives everywhere. Where's mine? I don't even know where mine is. I've already lost it. But had I been using BitLocker to Go, I would have had everything on that drive encrypted. That way, if you lose the drive, which inevitably happens, you at least aren't concerned with somebody getting their hands on that data. So it's very useful to have that there. So how did we do with this one? Well, you 84% of you knew BitLocker cold. I should have asked it a harder way. I didn't make my 50%. So there's our trade-off. The last one I was made too hard. This one I made too easy. It's a balancing act, isn't it? I think we're doing pretty well, though, with our questions today. I think all of you are doing pretty well with the questions today. Now, if you start working with BitLocker, or you start working with these network technologies, or you start getting through trying to get more experience with these, because the more you use these, the easier the questions are going to be. If you can apply something back to really doing this, whether it's this muscle memory in your brain or just the fact that you were able to put this into a real world environment and work through these technologies, it really, really helps, especially with the performance-based questions you may be asked on the A+ certification. So if you are someone who would like to get more lab time, but you don't have multiple machines in your office or your home. You don't want to set up multiple operating systems. And then once you set all of this up, how do you get them to talk to each other? How do I even do a lab unless you know what the content is? And if you already knew what the content was, you wouldn't need the lab, right? Isn't that how it works usually? So what you can do is take advantage of online labs like the ones that come from GTS Learning. And these labs they're live Windows systems. They come with a lab information. I can even step through. This one is on disk cleanup. Can't see because my head's in the way there. Let me see. I can probably move me out of the way a little bit. So this is that's not the right wide. Move me out of the way. Let's see. It's right here. So disk cleanup. So I can go through using disk cleanup. They got screenshots you can walk through. So you can run all of this. This is a domain controller. Here's a Windows 7 device. Look how fast that is when I click on it. This is a full-blown version of Windows. It's not a web page. It's not an emulation. This is an actual virtualized system that's in the cloud. Here's an XP device. And this is actually, I turned off the XP device, so I'm not connecting to that one. I wanted to show you the Windows 7 and the domain controller for these two. So whenever I start working through these, I can probably turn off the Windows 7. You have complete control over all of these systems. We'll shut it down, and then we'll run through our lab on the Windows 7 device. So our XP is turned off. And we can step through and go through all of the processes that are in the lab in real time just from your browser. I didn't have to load any extra software with this, which is kind of nice too. I just had to pop open my browser. It's connecting to it automatically. Very useful to have that functionality there and have it all accessible in one place with all of these labs. One other nice thing about this is that GTS Learning has made these live labs available for a year, and there's a discount if you follow my link. If you go to the GTS Learning site directly, you don't get the discount. So make sure you follow the professormesser.com/live labs and you get a special price for that year. Also, they have 1 hour of free time. So if you think maybe this is something, I'm not sure if I need it, maybe I do, you can try it yourself for an hour and see if it is something you need. And if not, maybe you set up your own. You'll be able to tell. Follow the link, professormesser.com/live labs, and you can try it out yourself. A very interesting way to go through a set of labs that's already worked out. All the machines are there. Everything is set for you. And we want to thank the folks at GTS Learning for supporting what we're doing here as well. They've been great supporters of Messer Studios and getting these videos out. I talk to these guys every week, it seems. They always have something interesting going on. So thank you, GTS Learning, for that as well. Let's see if we can get more questions in. Here's one. And I think on this one, I did not give you multiple choice. So you can think of this one sort of like a performance-based question that you might get for these. Performance-based questions are really useful to be able to work through these things. The performance-based questions may ask you to fill in the blank. They may ask you to put things in a particular order. It may put you at a command line and you may have to complete something, or it might give you a picture like this one that says, what is the maximum speed supported over this cable? Notice I didn't tell you what this cable was. You got to know what this cable is. This is a 900 series question. This is a 22901 question. So if you're studying for your 800 series, you would not be asked this question. Sorry. I tried to put as many questions that really covered both, but I think more people now are leaning towards the 900. So I'm trying to do a little more on the 900 series for that one and being able to do that piece. So what is the maximum speed supported over this cable? Maybe you know. You can find out in Socrative to be able to see the cable and then be able to work through it. This is very useful to have that there. I think whenever I start going through the details of this, I'll pop it open on my side and see how we're doing. Oh, we're doing pretty good with this one. A lot of you are doing very well with this particular question. Some of you are not doing very well with this particular question. We'll have to figure this out in these pieces. I think whenever I start looking through the different responses, I don't have people's names here, so I can show almost all of these as you're putting it in. Let's see how we did with this one and being able to work through those pieces. Here we go. You can see a lot of people, a lot of mix of questions of answers in here. Some 10 gigabit per second, 60 gigabits per second, 480 gigabit per second, 700 megabits per second. We've got a little mixture of different things. We're all over the place. See, I didn't give you a multiple choice on this one. You have to know straight up what the maximum speed would be over this cable. So our first choice would be, what is this cable? So I think that's probably a good place to start, isn't it? So this cable is a USB cable, Universal Serial Bus. And it looks kind of funny on the end of this one because it's a USB 3.0 micro B interface. So that is really the question. Really, that one is a weird looking end if you haven't used the USB 3.0 interfaces before. So you should have seen this immediately and said, oh, that's USB 3.0. I see what you mean. I'm going to zoom up on my screen here. And if you saw this pop up, you should be able to see, well, that's USB clearly. And you should be able to look at this and go, wait a second, what is, Oh, that's the USB 3.0, which you sort of get a clue for because a lot of 3.0 cables are blue. That's USB 3.0 micro B cable. So if you know that it's USB 3.0, then you should be able to answer questions about USB 3.0. So on my videos, whenever I talk about USB, I go through the different versions of USB. And that's where, whenever you start stepping through them, this becomes pretty important to start working through all of these different pieces. The USB 3.0 is the version that really is important with working through these pieces. So we know it's not 1.1, and we know it's not 2.0. But we do know that it's 3.0. This is super speed. And you will see different places will document the speed of USB 3.0. Some places say 5 gigabits per second. Some say 4.8 gigabits per second. That's close enough for the exam. You should be able to tell the differences in those two to be able to work through those pieces. And in your exam, it's USB 3.0 that is the highest that you'll need to know. There is a 3.1 version. I don't even know if we have the new 3.1 hardware out yet. I know that it will be implemented a lot in Thunderbolt, so I'm looking forward to see some of those come through. So you need to know about 3.0, and 3.0 certainly is what they're calling USB super speed, and it will get you up to 5 gigabits per second. So if you answered on this one 5 gigabits per second, you got this one absolutely right. I think a number of you did answer 5 gigabits per second. I can see there's a 5 gigabits per second, 5 gigabits, 5 gigabits, 5 gigabits. You guys did really good with this one. 5 gigabit. There's another 5 gigabits. That's a capital B. That's a gigabytes. Can't give you credit on that one. Lowercase b is bits. Uppercase b is bytes. And those are very different things. The micro B connection, chat room, does not affect the speed rating. In this case, the micro B is just the type of connector on the end of it. The big difference, though, is this connector has this micro B only looks this way if it's USB 3.0 and higher. USB 2.0 and lower have a different type of connector. That's how we knew it was the 3.0. So that's very useful to know that there. Also in the chat room, somebody said they've seen resources that say full speed 1.1 has a maximum length of 3 meters. Other places say it's a maximum length of 5 meters. Which one is it? Well, here's the answer. I've actually done quite a bit of research on this. The actual answer is there's not a standard for length. How you like that? There is no specific standard like you might see for networking. For Ethernet networks, it's 100 meters. Doesn't work that way with USB. With USB, you have to get the signal from one end of the cable to the other. As long as you can get it all the way down the cable and the device on the other side can hear it, you can use that cable. So there technically is not a specific standard on the length of the cable. However, in most cases, you will see these links that I have listed here. These lengths, not links, but lengths that I've listed here. 3 meters, 5 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. That tends to be what people are using and are successfully getting signals from one end of the cable to the other. So that's why whenever you see these distances for USB, it might be different depending on what book or what guide you go to. And you may even find different ways to buy it in different links. They're all standardized. Are all the USB 3.0? The blue color, ideally, a 3.0 cable does have that blue color associated with it, like the one we have here. You can see this blue color. Doesn't have to have a blue color, though. That is highly encouraged in the standard, but it's not a requirement. But if you see one that is blue, that's probably a USB 3.0, and you can look at the cable to see that. It is a different pinout on the inside, so you can look at the end of it and see how many pins are on the inside, and you'll be able to tell the difference between a 2.0 and a 3.0. That's one of the things that you'll run into with those pieces. In fact, here's a picture. Here's the USB standard B, standard A, and micro B, and you can see the blue color is very obvious on those, which is what you want when you're working through these pieces. If you are someone who's watching these videos for continuing education credit, then you can go to the top or the bottom of my website at professormesser.com. There's a Contact Us link at the top and bottom. At the Contact Us link, put your name, put that this is the February A+ study group, and then put the secret code word of USB 3.0. And that way I'll know to send you a credit that you watched an hour of the study group. That's at the top and bottom of my website is a Contact Us link. Put your name, put that this is the February A+ study group, and put the code word of USB 3.0, and I will send that to you for these pieces. Yes, this is that question that asks about speed, though, for these pieces is for both those pieces, I think, are the right way. I think those are for the 901. I don't know if there's any USB 3.0 in the 801. We'll have to look at that. It'd be a good one to look at in the after show. And Type C is not included in the exam objectives. So go figure with those pieces. But again, the A+ certification is to give you knowledge of what you're going to find in the field right now when you step in there, at least the vast majority. It's not to give you information on the latest and greatest bleeding technologies that are out there. It's to help you when you walk into a room and need to support systems, what you would expect to find. And that is certainly USB 3.0 is something you would expect to find these days, I would bet. Let's do another question, shall we? This one is multiple choice. I'm not going to give you all fill in the blank. I'm not that kind of person. The question is, with which of these would you use Windows PE? Windows PE. PE, of course, stands for physical education. No, it does not. But it could be one of these things. Is it to run a system restore? Is it to encrypt a file? Is it to view the properties of a folder? Is it to connect to a network printer? Or is it to restart a remote computer? And with which of these would you use Windows PE? It's got to be one of these, right? If you think you know the answer, don't answer in the chat room. You should instead answer in Socrative, and I'll be able to see the answers popping up on my screen, and we will all look at them and see if you happen to know the answers of these. I think this is one that does come in handy. I've had to do this many times, in fact, for that, to be able to do that. I think that's one of the most important ways to be able to go through those pieces and figure it out. Anybody for the chat room, folks want to know how to contact me. Best way to contact me is the top and bottom of my website is the link for Contact Us, which is really contact me. That's the best way to send me a note, ask me a question, find out more about something I said, call shenanigans, whatever it happens to be. I'm adding a lot of new content for the website right now. I'm putting a lot of new videos up for the 902. Occasionally I put the wrong link. Somebody will send me a message there and they'll say, you got the wrong link there, and I can quickly go in and change it. So you guys have been really great at helping me out along those lines. So many links, so many things to know. Let's see how you know. Windows. I see a lot of you are Googling Windows PE. I see, I know what's going on here. I can tell by the number of people who are answering the question whether you are. Because normally, if it's a question you guys think you know, the numbers kind of crank up immediately. When there's a bit of a delay, I know that there is something going on there, that you're busy with this one, figuring out those pieces. In which of these cases would you use Windows PE? Let's find out. When would you use Windows PE? Well, 68% said run system restore, but double digits, 15% said restart a remote computer, 11% said connect to a network printer. Which one is it, though? Which one? Well, first we need to know what a Windows PE really is, don't we? Windows PE stands for the Windows pre-installation environment. Whenever you're running setup, whenever you're going through the process of figuring out how to repair your system, whenever you're trying to really get anything running without Windows actually executing, then you want to run this in the Windows pre-installation environment. This is where you do memory tests. This is where you get to the command prompt. This is where you would run a system restore, in fact. So anytime you're trying to troubleshoot, anytime you're trying to recover, anytime you're trying to get really anything done on here, very useful. And you can, of course, instead of using the Microsoft pre-installation environment, you can even build your own pre-installation environment. I even show you how to do that in my Windows 7 course, but you can absolutely do it using the Windows Automated Installation Kit, the AIK, to be able to do that. There's a number of third-party pre-installation environments that you can get. One is the BART pre-installation environment, and you can also go through and create one. There's a Windows anti-malware boot disk that you could create so that it would start the pre-installation environment and then have your utilities on it. So you can really customize this to do whatever you would like to do and being able to work through those pieces. The Windows PE, extremely useful to be able to do those things. So if you are someone who answered Run System Restore, which is absolutely one of these options, you can even see it on my screenshot of the system recovery option. System Restore is right there. Now imagine if you installed a driver and then you rebooted your system and the system won't boot because of a problem with that driver installation. This is the way you do it. You run System Restore right from the Windows installation media. And that way you can go back in time and reconfigure your system to an earlier configuration. Would not be to encrypt a file, Windows PE, although I guess you could install a utility in your PE build that was customized, but not our best answer. We're looking for the best answer for those and be able to work through them. Properties of a folder, connect to a network printer, restart a remote computer would not be the best use of a Windows PE. Running System Restore, the 67% of you that answered Run System Restore got that one absolutely correct with that. Well done on those pieces. There's a lot of different options in the Windows PE world to be able to work through those. You should absolutely know about those. One of the things I often mention when we go through these different questions on the study group is that you need to know what's on the exam. In fact, you ask me a lot during the month that I need to know what I should expect on this exam. And if you think you did know, you should maybe not be sure. But the best place you should go to be absolutely sure what's on the exam and what you should study and what's important is in the Windows or the CompTIA A+ certification exam objectives, which include all of the details for all the operating systems you're going to need to know for those pieces. This is one that becomes extremely useful. And in fact, if you haven't downloaded the latest version of the exam objectives, they have changed them a little bit. They have a different look and feel to them. You can see there's a picture of the screen on the ones here. They actually made them worse. CompTIA did not do you any favors on this one, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. And being able to work through them. That's one, whenever you start getting into the details, unfortunately, sometimes trying to make something better doesn't. It makes it worse. So they made it look nicer. Look how nice this looks on the screen. It's pretty. It's pretty nice. Except what they did, if I scroll down a bit. So here's Section 1 hardware. Now, if you recall the old version, I think I have the old version here. Let's see what they did with this. Let me bring up my 901 information. Where to put it? Put it right here. It's right here, everybody. Had I, planned ahead, we've seen this. So here is Section 1 hardware in the previous version. So here it is. Now the content between the two is identical. Here's Section 1. Here's Section 1. Oh, that went full screen. Let's see if I can make a mess of this, shall we? There we go. So Section 1 hardware here, very, very different look and feel. Would you not agree? Section 1 on the old version was more of a checklist. Given a scenario, notice they have the bullets and it's different. And then you can see exactly under BIOS component information, here's all the different bullets. But notice now the BIOS configurations is split. And when you get to the next side, the next part of this, they have it in 3 columns. Now you're not sure, wait, is the enabling and disabling devices a subsection of BIOS configurations? You kind of have to, in your mind, it's not as clear. You have to now link this back to what you were just reading in the previous column. Is monitoring under built-in diagnostics, or is monitoring a separate bullet? Well, it's bolded, but is it a separate? It's hard to. Well, no, it's a separate bullet. It's more difficult to be able to figure out. What are they doing? What are they thinking? Thanks, CompTIA. Notice it didn't add any content. There's nothing new inside of this. It's exactly the same information, just now harder to read. Thanks so much, CompTIA, for doing that. Maybe you can find an older version of the exam objectives and use those, because my recommendation is to use this as your checklist. Go through each one of these pieces of information and try to figure out, do I know this, yes or no? And then you can check it off. It is pretty. I'll give them that. Whoever's doing their graphical design work did a fine job, although the typeface is not something that's very readable, relatively speaking, to the old version. I guess I don't like it at all, do I? Yeah, I don't like it at all. So there you go. There's my completely biased opinion of this. As somebody who uses these exam objectives every day, they are my lifeline. They are exactly what I use to give you the information you need. To find the objectives, unfortunately, the old set of the objectives is not downloadable any longer. It's not anywhere on CompTIA's website, and it's already been released. The version I have here is version 5 of the 901 objectives, is what I'm looking at on the left, and it's what they call version 1 of the 901 objectives on the right. So not only did they change the format, but not change any of the content, they named it the number that was prior to the number of the old one. The old one was version 5, the new one's version 1. What? Really? Really? So not probably the best scenario, but if you know it, if you understand this, you'll be fine. So now that you know, you'll be able to work through any of these concerns. It's really more of a problem for me because I have to use these as a tool. Version 5 and version 1 effectively have the same information on them. So the 901 exam objectives when they were released, the 901 and 902 exam objectives when they were released have not changed. So you should be fine. Some of the pre-release versions that are floating around on the web have changed a bit. There are some things that are different. But as long as you have, I think version 5 was the one that was released for the 901, and the 902, I don't know what it was. But definitely get the latest one. Always work from the latest exam objectives, and you'll be just fine. The 800 series, I don't think they changed the 800 series, did they? So I think you're fine there as well. So, but make sure you have them. Make sure you get your hands on the exam objectives. This is what you should have to know exactly what's going to be on the exam. There's no question. If you know everything that's on these exam objectives, you go through every one of these bullets and you know all of this information, and you can look and go, yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, I know what that is. Yep, I know what that is. Yep. If you're going down this list and you know what that is, you're going to pass your exam. A lot of books go outside the scope of what's on the exam objectives, which I guess is good because it gives you a perspective of what's out there in the rest of the world, but it doesn't help you for the exam. You really want to focus on what's on the exam. This is what's on the exam. You know what's on these pages, you'll pass your exam. It's that simple. I say simple. You know it's hard, but you know what I'm saying. Know what's on the sheets of paper. Use it as a checklist. And when you have checked off pretty much everything on these lists, you're ready to take your exam, which answers the question of, am I ready to take my exam? Always go back to the exam objectives. If you come to my website and you're asking, what do I need to know? What topics are the most important? I always say, download the exam objectives, use them as your checklist. Hey, I'm taking my exam in a week. What's the best way to study in this last week? Download the exam objectives, use it as a checklist. That's what you should be doing. That, I think, is the most important thing to do. I also do recommend that you do not go to third-party sites to download the exam objectives. Always go to CompTIA to download the exam objectives, because at any point they could dramatically change these exam objectives, and in the past they have, the very distant past. But they have in the past changed the exam objectives, and you want to be sure you've got the latest set to work from. Very, very important to be able to work through those pieces. Very important. Well, let's talk about what's next. We've gone through an hour of this already. How is this possible? But I do one of these every month. So we had a great time this month. I'll have many more questions for you next month. You can always go to the Professor Messer website under professormesser.com/calendar to get the latest on what the latest will be. And the latest is on March the 2nd is our next live A+ study group. Of course, if you're watching this on the replay and you're nowhere close to being in February or March, just go to the calendar and you'll know exactly what's coming up next on the study groups. It becomes useful to do that. Make sure you always check what's going on in Twitter and YouTube, which you can't even read on the screen because my head's in the way. But you know where I'm going with that. ProfessorMesser.com/Twitter, ProfessorMesser.com/YouTube. You type in ProfessorMesser.com/something, you're going to find me. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, about me. I don't know. I've got tons of things out there. Do I have an about me page? I think I do. It's one of those. Don't forget about my course notes at ProfessorMesser.com/A+CN. My thanks again to GTS Learning. And don't forget to get your 1 hour of free lab time at ProfessorMesser.com/LiveLabs. And of course, we've got the calendar for all the other study groups that are there. I want to thank everybody for joining us live. Remember, the after show is next. If you're sticking around, I'll open up the phone lines and be taking questions from the chat room. Just something I do until my voice goes out. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody for joining us in the study group. Thanks very much for being here, for answering the questions. I really could not do this without you. And thanks for your continuing support throughout the month. It really means a lot. Thanks for the emails you send and the messages as well. They really do go a long way. We'll see you next month. And thanks for joining us in the study group. Bye, everyone. Yeah, do I have a Friendster account? I used to have a Friendster account. I don't have a link to a Friendster account. It hurts. It doesn't help any way that Friendster isn't around anymore. So that's one of those challenges. Do I have what was the one Google did? What was it? Before Google Plus. What was it? Now the name. Somebody needs to remember what that is. Do I have a Snapchat set up? I have a Snapchat account, but I don't think I have a link to Snapchat. And certainly not a Club Penguin. Thank you, Ziggy, for that. I did have a MySpace, but not a link to the MySpace. Because none of you are in MySpace. If you were there, I would be there. But you're not there, so I'm not. Let's get our phone lines up and running. Phone lines up and running. How do we do that anyway? How do we get a phone line up and running anyhow? I bet we do. It was not Google Buzz. It was before that. It was a weird name. It was a funny name, and I wish I could remember it. I could have remembered it had I not mentioned it. Let's call in. First, let me check. I usually, for those of you joining us, I do this call in, so you can call into here, and you can, of course, see the name there. But I like to do, I haven't done a Skype test call in quite some time, so I like to...
Hello.
Well,
Skype call
hi.
Testing
That was
service.
quick.
After the
Hi,
beep,
lady.
Please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Skype lady, I'm a little concerned because you're always there. It doesn't seem like you go home. It doesn't seem like you take a break. It's always you. It's the same person. I recognize the voice, so I know that you're always there. So you might want to think about taking a vacation, a little bit of time off. Try to take and she cut me off.
I'm a little concerned.
Well, it sounds fine. So she cut me off just like that too, which I don't appreciate. Let's dial into my call-in so I can call and talk to you as well.
Thank you for calling.
Well, you're welcome for me calling that, except now I've lost my Skype, so I can't type anything in. It's just me, people. This is the way it works.
Your 6-digit PIN number.
There we go.
Welcome.
Welcome. I like that. It's very personable. Welcome. I don't see me up there on the screen though yet, which is the part that really concerns me the most for those. Which one is it? Yes, I will email you the certification for the continuing education. That Google site though, that Google thing was really, it was popular. It was something, then they just turned it off. Who needs it, right? That's what they did. Okay, I am on my host room. So yes, I will. It wasn't Google Circles. It wasn't. What was the Google social networking acquisition? Now see what you're doing to me. Wasn't Dodgeball. It wasn't YouTube. Wasn't Tumblr, Microsoft. No, this is not it. Well, now it's going to be stuck in my brain for the rest of the week and figuring out these pieces. What was it? It was like in 2010, 2009, 2008. It was a while back. Someone will figure this piece out. It wasn't Buzz. It was not Orkut, which was a popular one as well. It wasn't you. It wasn't Yahoo. It wasn't WhatsApp. Nope. This was before all of these things. It was before we really knew what the heck social networking was. No, it wasn't Orkut. It was before that. Maybe it wasn't Google. Maybe I'm thinking wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Google. I remember them turning it off. That was the thing, and what they were doing with it. It was an interesting perspective, though. Everybody was trying to figure it out. Google Plus, no, it was no. Google Plus is still around. I promise you, they're still there. Oh, so there's a Wikipedia page for the mergers and acquisitions of Google. So now I should be able to go through the list and figure out these pieces. Jaiku. It was Jaiku. That's what it was. And that was more of a microblogging, yes, but it was more social networking. And that was what it was, from Helsinki. It was a great name, wasn't it? Jaiku. You saw a CCNA playlist in my YouTube? No, you did not. Because I don't have one. Sorry. But the question, any plans for Cisco course? I'd love to do a Cisco course. That would be delightful. That would be fun. A little busy at the moment. But I'd love to have that on my list. Let's see if we could talk to somebody on the thing. Let's go to 559 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Well, hello. It sounds like a party's going on.
Not really.
I imagine it is. Well, it sounds good, though. Good luck with that. I think that's one of the things whenever I start trying to figure out, hey, I'm having a party right now. Should I call into a show? Absolutely, I should. Let's try a different one, maybe 559 again, which doesn't give me any good feelings. But are you there, caller?
Hi, Professor. How are you?
Hello. What's your name?
My name is Musa.
Hey,
How are you
so
doing
you've called
today?
before, have you not?
Yeah. No, it's not my part.
What can we do for you? What's your question?
Yeah, thank you. Professor, the first things I want to say thank you very much. Your videos is powerful. It's very powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
I okay. Yeah, but I think let me before decided or choose the day, I make some exams here. I take the exam gram book, okay?
Yep.
I passed the first practice exam and the second about 94, 95 degrees. When I take the third exam, I'll take 71 because I see some questions talking about DMI, QPI. I don't know what's this.
Right.
When I go to the GTS learning about the one exam, about 100 questions, I take 94. I don't know what can I do for this. So, yesterday, I go to the exam gram book, not the practice questions. It's the notebook. And read it. But it's more information, maybe good for me.
Right.
This. What you recommended me for doing? Because I will take the exam the next week.
I think you're on the right track, and I think that taking for those of you following along, and I know it was a little broken up, so I apologize for the audio there, but I think it's something on the other side with Skype. One of the challenges, and one of the things I really recommend, is that you get a good book, you get some type of maybe notes that you're taking that you can refer to, and get good Q&A, good questions and answers. And that's where The real challenge is that the type of questions and answers you get varies widely depending on who you go to. I think in a number of the A+ books, the questions are pretty good. I think GTS Learning has a good set of questions. I think that the folks that are creating some Q&A books, I really like the Exam Cram series of books, for example. There is an Exam Cram book that is nothing but practice questions. One of the reasons I like that is that they have the practice questions tend to build on each other and get harder and harder and harder as they go. I don't know that they have a 900 series book yet. Maybe they do. But I know that they have their 800 series books certainly available. And they have a lot of different books. Exam Cram is a series of books. The one you're looking for is one that says Exam Cram Practice Questions. That's the key words on that, because it's a book of nothing but questions. I think it's a pretty good book of nothing but questions. There are a lot of things that are asking questions and giving you sample questions to go through. Unfortunately, the ones online vary in quality and vary in the accuracy. So I don't necessarily recommend doing online questions so much, or at least take them with a grain of salt when you're going through them. I think getting somewhere, a book or a well-known site that does sample questions, I think is a much better alternative. And I think that may be your better way to go, especially if you have a week to go. Get a book like that. It's all digital. You can go through it quickly, and it may be the difference in understanding what some of those topics are. Hopefully that will help with some of the things you're doing. Thanks so much for calling. I'm sorry we had problems with the audio, but I think we were able to figure out those pieces and get it there anyway. Let's go to the next call, which is the 661 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hello, what's your name?
Yes, sir. My name is Francis. Are you cool?
Thanks for calling. Let's see if we can get over this dropping of audio a bit. What's your question?
I'm taking my certification exam by the end of the month, which is by the end of February.
Great.
And I was wondering, which one do you recommend me taking, 801 or 901?
It's a good question. What have you been studying up to this point? Have you been studying from 801 materials, or have you been studying from 901, or are you just getting started?
Well, I was studying 801, and then I looked on the computer site and I saw the 901.
Right.
Which is the new edition, and I've been studying the 901 as well. So I have studied both the 801 and the 901, but I'm not really done with the 901.
And you have a bit of a challenge, and you have a choice right now. You could take either. And that's one of the advantages you have right now, is that CompTIA has released the 900 series, but they haven't gotten rid of the 800 series. And they do this because there's a good time to overlap both of these exams with each other. And that way, if you've already been studying for the 800 series, you can just keep studying for the 800. As long as you can take both of the exams and be able to take them both by the end of June, the 800 series is fine. And why wouldn't you? There's a lot of books and materials available for the 800 series. You've already been studying for the 800 series. On the other hand, I think it's nice to be able to study the new materials as well. So with the new content on the 900 series, you don't have to know anything about Windows XP, and you get to learn about Windows 8, for example. There's some Mac OS, there's some Linux on the 900 series exam. So there's some very useful things to have to be able to do that. I think that's one where you've got a choice. It doesn't matter which set you take, which set of exams you pass, you get exactly the same certification. So hopefully that will help you figure out which one to take. The answer is it doesn't matter. It's really up to you. Which one do you take, or which one are you more comfortable taking? Which one do you have more study materials for? And which one do you think you'll be able to get through by the end of June? Focus on those two things and you're going to be just fine. I think that's your best way to go with both of those. We do have some lines open. You can see the numbers on your screen if you're calling from either here or through Skype. You can call. The Skype number is exactly the same. Uses no Skype minutes. +1 855-785-7545. That's +1 855-785 RJ45 to be able to do that. You don't call me directly on Skype. You just use the 800 number that I have here, the 855 number, and you'll absolutely be able to do that as well. There's very useful, I think, to be able to call without any charge. So let's go to the 646 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hi.
Hi, what's your name? Thanks for holding.
Is, Raul.
Hey, Raul. Thanks.
Hi. I have a question. Why is it referred to as EDRAM when it's not random access memory?
What is referred to? I didn't hear the
CMOS
first
RAM,
part of
I'm
that.
sorry. Why is it referred to as CMOS RAM when it's not random access memory?
I know, and quite technically speaking, it's probably not CMOS either in most of our modern computers. It goes back to the early days when we had an actual CMOS chip on our motherboard, and it was the CMOS itself was something where we just stored all of the configuration settings for the computer. In fact, we sometimes even old people like me sometimes even use the term BIOS and CMOS to mean exactly the same thing. But the CMOS, of course, is a type of semiconductor. It's the complementary metal oxide semiconductor, CMOS. And whenever I'm looking and working on my computer, it used to be that our BIOS software was working with the CMOS. And we often referred to this as it is a type of memory. A CMOS is a type of memory chip. So it's not uncommon to say CMOS memory, although it's a little bit redundant to say it that way. But if you read some of the older A+ books or you see some older content, they will still refer to it in some of these older terms like CMOS memory, when in fact, really CMOS is what we're talking about. And I would bet they're probably talking about the BIOS software on top of that. It's going to be useful for your exam to know those differences, because it will help you a lot to know the history of where that came from. And maybe that will help you understand, oh, they said CMOS, that must have something to do with the BIOS that's inside of my computer. And you might be able to link those up. Does that make sense, Raul?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling. There's so many different acronyms, too, that you have to figure out in all of those and being able to make them happen. Let's go to 713. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hey, Professor Messer. This is John from Houston.
Hey, John.
Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Hey. Thank you. So I do have a question, but first I just wanted to thank you. Your materials, your videos, and your course notes have been invaluable.
Oh, great.
To me. Like, I got my A+ certification last summer, and I just got my Network Plus on Saturday.
Great.
And
Congratulations.
in both cases, thank you very much. In both cases, you were a huge part of that. So just thank you.
Good to hear. You actually had the hard part, but congratulations. It's great to hear.
Well, I will say the Network Plus was a bit harder than the A+.
It is, a little bit. There's you are now fully acronymed, I think. That is the most acronymed exam there is.
I missed a couple of questions specifically because I did not remember the acronyms.
Right.
So anybody who's going to take the Network Plus, know your acronyms.
And I'll even mention again, your exam objectives on the back of the Network Plus exam objectives are pages of acronyms. So that's a good place to go. What can we do for you today?
So, well, my question was actually regarding another of CompTIA's certifications. They have a CompTIA, I think it's Healthcare IT Technician.
Yep.
I was just wondering if you knew anything about this certification or maybe how it's regarded. Here in Houston, we have a huge, the Texas Medical Center is probably the largest collection of medical facilities in the world.
Right.
And so healthcare is a huge part of the economy here, and I would like to move into that field. So I was just wondering if you had any information about this certification.
It is interesting you bring this up. I actually got a question about this earlier this week. It is at the end of 2014, I believe it was, like in the summer of 2014, CompTIA said, you know what, we're getting rid of this healthcare IT certification thing, completely going away. We're retiring it at the end of the year. And then they came out just before the end of the year and they go, no, we're not. So they changed their mind. I don't have any insight, by the way, into CompTIA. I'm not a CompTIA partner. Right. I don't really call them unless I need something from their help desk. I'm not really connected into CompTIA. So all I see about CompTIA, I see from the outside. But it seems like they realized, wait a second, people are using this now. Usually when CompTIA is planning to phase out a certification, they're doing it because nobody's going to take the exam. So in their minds, why would they go through this process? So something happened and they completely reversed where they were going with this. I don't know if suddenly people started taking the exam or if they started working with a third party that said, we think this exam is really important for our people. We're a big healthcare organization and we want you to keep doing it. And maybe that encouraged them to maintain it. But what I found is that now they're not coming off of it. They're going full steam ahead with their healthcare IT certifications exam. And quite honestly, there's not a lot of other IT related certifications out there that are focused on this particular vertical of healthcare. And as you are probably clearly aware, healthcare is its own world of technology. There are very specific things you have to be able to do, not just from a compliance perspective with HIPAA, but there are all these different technologies you have to be able to work with. Nurses' stations have a completely different IT requirement than somebody who's working in the accounting department. In fact, it's a dramatically different set of requirements. It's a radically different set of requirements. To the
I'm actually in accounting, so I know that.
Okay.
Very well.
Imagine a computer that has to be set up that if somebody walks up to it, you want that computer to be able to provide information to the user that just walked up and be specific for that user. And then when they walk away, because nurses, they're all over the place, and they walk up this machine, they need their information. When they walk away, it needs to get locked down because you don't want the patient information going out. And the next person that walks up needs to see their patients. And then you have, of course, telemetry requirements. There's huge amounts of data with MRI. This goes on and on and on. I've worked with many hospitals through the years, and a hospital itself is its own little world. The IT within a hospital is its own world as well in as far as IT is concerned. There's still a huge amount of overlap, but it has its own very specialized set of requirements, and it makes for a very challenging and I think a very rewarding IT career, because it's something that you're helping people and you've got the technology piece on top of it. It really is a very, very unique set of IT requirements in our particular industry. But your question was about the certification itself, and it was about, is this any good? What do people do with it? And I'm seeing a bit of a turn ever since CompTIA decided at the beginning of 2015 to keep the certification. As with anything, my standard caveat is when people ask me, is this a good certification? What I always say is, I don't know. I'm not the one hiring you. So the people who are hiring are the ones who get to determine, is this good or not? I guess ultimately it's you that really gets to determine, is this good or not? How are you going to use this certification? Are you going to look for a better job? Are you going to look for a different job? Are the people who are hiring for that job looking for that certification? And I often tell this to people is, if you know the people who are doing the hiring or you have a way to contact them, do it. Go to an industry meeting, if you're in the same organization, stop by their office, bring them a donut and say, you know what, I'm really interested in getting into this particular role. What are you guys looking for? What would be the best thing for me to work on right now to be able to get into this particular piece? The people who are in those hiring positions want to get skilled individuals. They will be glad to tell you this information. It is really useful to really focus people. If they don't have any personal worth associated with the healthcare IT, then why would you get that certification? If not for maybe personal use, for at least that information personally. Or they might say, you know what, that's a really good cert. I would love if everybody who worked for me had that certification. And often this is an individual person's perspective. The hiring manager has their own perspective of certifications and their value, and they'll tell you if it's valuable or not. Another place to go is to go to the big job postings. Go look at the Indeeds and the Dices and the Monsters and the Career Builders, and go see what those hiring managers are looking for. They might be specifying the certification straight up in the list of requirements. And then you'll know where the industry is going. Occasionally, every few months, I try to do that and go search around. It's hard to search for A+, because that's a hard, obviously I kind of have to manually go through a lot of help desk or other types of roles to see what people are looking for. You should be able to do a similar thing with healthcare, probably easier with the healthcare IT technician certification. I hope that helps.
And definitely. I just wanted to say I have been looking at that type of job posting.
Good.
I haven't seen that certification specifically mentioned. However, they are looking for things that are covered in the certification, like HIPAA, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And it seems like the material is very real world applicable, but it doesn't seem very rigorous. So that's kind of where my question is coming from. So thank you so much for the information.
I liked the exam objectives for the healthcare IT. I thought it was pretty much on the money. I think the problem is that the process of having a certification in the world and having other people hook into that certification being valuable is a very long road. A lot of people didn't even know about the A+ or consider it worthwhile until it had been out for a number of years. And the healthcare IT, as I said, they were going to turn it off at the end of 2014. We're only a year past that at this point. So you have to give the hiring managers time for it to get on their radar. But I think it's one of these things that's also very regionalized as well. Maybe once they now see that more and more people have it, it'll be stuck in their brain. They go, oh, well, we can talk about that. Or when they're asking about, tell me what you know about HIPAA during your interview, you can say, oh, well, I actually have a certification that talks about HIPAA. And anytime you say HIPAA and the word certification at the same time, that's always a good thing. So that can't hurt.
Right. That sounds good to me. I think I'm going to go for it. It's actually, the voucher's only $112, so that's kind of a throwaway.
Even better. Even better. And
well.
Anytime you're able to promote that you know something, all of the hiring managers know that a certification is not that you know everything there is to know. They know that's a beginning point. And they also know that if you know that much, you're someone who could know more. So you're trainable in that world. And they like that idea as well, because whatever job you go into, this was actually in the chat room earlier today where somebody said, I just started a job and I have no idea what's going on around me. I got a help desk job and I'm completely overwhelmed. And I said, well, good. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. You should never be walking into a job where you know everything. If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need to go somewhere else. So it's the same thing when you get into a new position or you're working to get into a new position. You should never promote yourself as knowing everything you should know for that position, but you should show them that you can find a way to learn it. And I think this helps along those lines by having the certification as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the information. That's very, very helpful.
Absolutely. And good luck. Let us know how it goes, John.
Thank you. I will.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
That's, I think the certification's getting more and more legs too. More and more people are asking about it, which didn't used to happen with this certification. We didn't have a lot of people asking about healthcare IT, which I think is why a lot of people, or why CompTIA was decided to get rid of it. I don't think there were a lot of people asking about it. And then right when they decided to get rid of it, isn't this the way? Suddenly everybody was asking about it. And that may have been why they decided to keep it around. It makes sense, I guess, from that perspective. Okay, lines are open if you want to call. Let's go to the chat room and ask some folks in here some of these, since I've been talking now for 30 minutes. Let's see. Well, if you're getting a busy signal, I don't know why. Maybe that's why lines are open. The lines are open right now. There were a number of people in there. I set it up to only have a certain number of lines available. I think if I fill up all 4 lines, it will give you a busy signal. But it sounds like you should be able to get through now. There is, so somebody was talking about cleaning an LCD monitor. And some people using 50-50 isopropyl alcohol, IPA, and distilled water. And then, as you can see, some manufacturers, this is in the chat, some manufacturers like Apple recommend against using alcohol. Right. Could you just use microfiber cloth and some water? Yeah. Don't use anything that has anything in it. For cleaning the front of an LCD monitor, a lot of these LCD monitors now have a protective screen on the front of it. And by using something that's caustic or something that has chemicals in it, don't use vinegar. Don't use vinegar. What are you doing? Boy, what a lovely environment you live in with everything cleaned with vinegar. Don't use isopropyl alcohol because that will eat into whatever you're using. Just use water. Just clean. How dirty is your LCD, by the way, that you're trying to, should you use some type of, no, don't use any cleaners. No Comet, no WD-40, no Windex, no Fantastic, none of those. Use water. Use water on everything. Don't use vinegar. Don't use anything but water. Not even distilled water. Just use water. Just clean it off. Now, there are some of the things you've probably seen out there, which are LCD screen cleaners. Completely worthless. Don't waste your money on those. Just use some water. Use a cloth, not even wring it out, a damp cloth with regular water, and just wipe it down. Don't use paper. That's the one thing you should not use, is don't use paper. Always use cloth. And for an LCD monitor, it doesn't even have to be one of these fancy no fiber, no lint cloths. Just use a wash rack and clean off your screen. You'll be fine. The real challenge is when you get to cleaning things like toner. That's a little more of a challenge. And generally water with that one as well. Shouldn't ever do those pieces too. Can you imagine using vinegar on everything in your office? If you work with other people, you won't be working with them long. They would not. Tap water won't leave any film deposits on the screen. No. What kind of tap water? If you're in Detroit, maybe don't use tap water. Everywhere else, you're fine. There should not be any deposits of film. What kind of water are you having that there's deposits left on your screens? No, you're fine with tap water. And I'm in the South. I'm in the southern United States. All of the tap water here has it's what we call very hard water. It's full of minerals. There's a lot of limestone. It has even a unique flavor. Some people don't like the flavor of water. It has a lot of minerals in it. It's not bad. In fact, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the water. But you can even use that on your screen, no problem. It's not an issue for being able. How many days do I recommend waiting in between taking the 801 and the 802, or the 901 and the 902? There's not a particular number. With the 800 series, there have been people in the past that have said the 801 exam teaches you hardware and networking and mobile devices and printers. The 802 exam asks you troubleshooting questions about those. So it's useful if you can take the 802 as soon as you feel comfortable with taking it. Don't wait very long, or you'll lose what you remembered about those components that you now need to know for troubleshooting. So there were even some people that said you should just take them both on the same day, which I don't recommend at all. I think you should take them individually, unless you're somebody who's really comfortable with the content. I mean, if you've been doing this a long time, you know this stuff, sure, you can take them both on the same day. But for most people, I don't recommend taking them the same day. At a bare minimum, I would even separate them out. There's a lot of sitting down and taking exams. For the 900 series, there is more options available. For the 900 series, the troubleshooting is in the same exam where you learn the content. So the 901 exam and the 902 exam are really self-contained exams. On the 901, you'll learn about hardware and you'll troubleshoot hardware. You'll learn about printers and you'll troubleshoot printers. You'll learn about mobile devices and you'll troubleshoot mobile devices, and you take that exam. Then you can shift gears over to the 902, where you learn about operating systems and you troubleshoot operating systems. You learn about security and you troubleshoot security. So you see where that's going? So they really are separated out quite a bit. They really are self-contained now. So for any other particular perspective, you really can take as long as you need between exams. Should never push yourself to take an exam. Use the exam objectives. That should be your master list. That should be what you use to get in, to be able to work with that. Network Plus question, but still a valid question. Jason asks, how important is scripting in network administration? And I would say you will get a very broad answer on this, but let me give you the perspective of someone who's been a network administrator, has worked for vendors that have networking equipment and security equipment. So I can even give you this perspective from a security administrator's perspective as well. You don't have to know any to do those jobs. You don't. It will help you a lot if you do know some type of scripting. At a basic batch file scripting level in Windows, PowerShell is extremely useful in Windows, and on the Unix Linux side, some bash shell scripting. Bash shell scripting is good to know as well. So those things are useful to be able to do the basic automation functions. A lot of people today will tell you, oh, if you're going to be getting into security, network security or network administration, you need to know fill in the blank language. You need to know Python. You need to know Java. You need to know JavaScript. You don't really need to know any of those. It helps. I have myself used bash shell scripting. I've used PowerShell scripting. I've done Perl, some of the worst Perl code you've ever seen in your life that you will not see of mine because it's awful. And I've used those to be able to automate functions, to be able to turn on and off things, to copy files different places, to manipulate and transfer files from logs from other devices, to do security administration, to access an API that's inside of a firewall so that I can pull information out of it or make changes to the firewall. There's a lot that you can do with scripting that makes your life easier, and you should absolutely take advantage of that. But you don't have to know it to be able to do those jobs. I think it helps immensely. You'll be better in your job if you can do some basic shell scripting in the operating systems that you're using. It becomes very, very useful. But programming language-wise, not a requirement. I think the more you know about programming languages, though, especially for security, I think it helps you understand where these vulnerabilities are in these applications. Even if you don't know what's really happening at the bit and byte level, you get the idea behind, oh, that's a buffer overflow. Oh, that's a SQL injection. Got it. Oh, now I understand man in the middle and why that's useful and why I can't do it with any type of certificates in place for encryption. Those types of things you really start to get a lot better if you have something that you can apply towards it. So that's what my recommendation would be, to be able to do that. The question, and this kind of goes back to what John and I were talking about, is that there's so many acronyms on these exams. So in the chat room, question was, there's so much. How do you remember all these things? Even for the A+, where you've got all these different interfaces, all the speeds of these interfaces, you have to know all the networking terms that are in there. There's a good smattering of networking terms. You have to know wiring. You have to know the wiring configurations for the network. And all of these have acronyms and things you have to memorize. And if you've never worked with these things before, RAID types, hard drive configurations, it's pure memorization. And that's why a lot of people recommend, and I do as well, try to find some application for these things. Plug in and configure a RAID array. Connect up an Ethernet network so that you can understand the wires. You can get a perspective of the interfaces. You know how they connect to each other. It all makes perfect sense whenever you're doing that. I think that's one wherever I start working through them, it becomes incredibly useful to know those things. And because now I'm not just rote memorizing them, I'm actually applying them. Oh, that's 568A. Punch down something with 568A. Crimp the end of an Ethernet cable. I know that you don't have to know how to crimp a cable for the exam, but by crimping the cable and putting all of those wires in and putting them exactly in the right order and crimping it down, you're like, okay, that's 568B. I just did it. It does make a difference in memorizing it. And if you can, the more hands-on you can get, the better off you're going to be. Go do that. Very, very useful. Question on these. A lot of these, how deep is hard drive formatting covered in the 900 series exam? I don't think in the exam objectives they go even talking about clusters or tracks. I think I do have it in my videos so you can understand what's happening on a hard drive. You don't have to know all command lines for formatting and how many bits per cluster, any of those things, and being able to work through them. It is something you don't have to worry about on the exam, not that level of detail. You have to know what formatting is. You have to know the difference between the different formatting types in Windows. You have to know what a low-level format is. But that's about as detailed as it goes on the exam. Most of what you're doing in an operating system is a standard format or a quick format. Those are the two things you really need to know about and the differences between those on the exams. I think that's pretty useful too in being able to have those there. Yeah, I think anybody who can get their hands on a good crimper, even just an okay crimper, and some wire and some cable connectors, just RJ45 connectors, plug them in. You will mess up your first 10 cables. They will be completely wrong. In fact, on my Instagram, I did one recently in the last month or two. I just crimped it wrong. I completely missed a wire. And you have to look close at it and go, oh yeah, that's not even touching. It was coming up. It was connecting at 100 megabit. It wasn't connecting at a gigabit. And it was for a network address storage. I'm like, why is my NAS not connecting at gigabit speeds? It needs to be gigabit. I'm transferring a lot of files and it wasn't connecting because the wire was missing. I had enough wires for 100 megabit. Obviously only need 4 wires for 100 megabit. You need all 8 wires for gigabit. So that was what that was about for those pieces. That's one I run into a lot and knowing those pieces. And I'll have to say, there was a question also in the chat room about bus speeds and memory. You do have to know how to convert between these different memory speed types, apparently. Not really sure what that's about. Not really sure why that's such an important thing for the exam, but it is. It's on the exam. It's in the exam objectives, sort of. I'm thinking maybe they'll start phasing some of these out. It's not incredibly important that you know how to immediately do the calculations back and forth between a PC formatted memory speed and the DDR memory speed, but it's an easy calculation. I have it in my 900 series videos. I simplified it so that people could just do it very quickly. You don't need to know the details behind how you do it, just that you multiply and divide. That's all you need to know. I think that's useful in being able to work with those. Wrapping a cable, that's an odd question. Not really. It's a little bit outside the scope of the A+ certification. How do you properly wrap a cable up? Actually, this is kind of important on the network side. Certainly, maybe not so much with others, but hand to elbow wrapping. You're not trying to make something tight here, but putting it in a circle is the preferred method. You don't want to crimp something together and then tie it off so it looks like a bow tie. That's a bad idea. You want that cable, that copper inside that cable, never to be crimped. So you don't want to wrap it too tight together, like in a tight circle. It needs to be a longer circle. The bend radius needs to be a little bit wide, but circles are always good for anything that's copper related. Circles are also always good for anything fiber related. Never crimp things together. There should never be a bend in a cable. Why is Vista still important to know? Because Vista is still extensively used in the world. That's why. Let's go look, shall we? We did this on my chat room today. In the last 30 days, how many people do you think have been to the Professor Messer website and used Vista? I have these numbers. Let's look at them, shall we? Let's pull up my analytics for my website. You can't see this, I realize, but I'm going to tell you what I see on the screen. So let's look at the Professor Messer website. Now, on the Professor Messer website, I'm not going to give you actual extensive numbers of everybody coming to my website and what they're doing, but let's look at what operating system people are using when they come to my website. So in the last, what's my time frame here? Since January 3rd to February the 2nd, so a last month or so of data, let's look at operating systems to my website. And I'm going to just give you the raw number of users. I'm not going to give you number of sessions. I'm going to give you just individual users to my site. How many people were running Windows? Let me drill down. By far, most of the people coming to my website are running Microsoft Windows. So, in fact, the number one number of people come to my site running Windows 7. There are more people coming to my website and running Windows Vista than running Windows 8. Now, Windows 8.1, there are many more people running Windows 8.1 than running Windows 8. There's more people running Is that number really right? Well, there's more sessions. There actually are more people running Windows Vista, but 514 individual people coming to my website in the last month are running Windows Vista. Quite honestly, it's a very small percentage of the total number of people visiting my website, but it's still 514 people. That's a lot of people just coming to my website running Windows Vista. That's why you need to know Vista. Not necessarily the installation part so much, but certainly, quite honestly, the installation for Windows Vista is almost identical to the installation for Windows 7 and Windows 8, Windows 8.1. It's the upgradability and getting people off of Vista that's going to be the important part. And that's why you need to know it, is because it's still out there. There were almost identically, no, there's even more people visiting my website over the last month. 943 people running Windows XP. Why don't we still have Windows XP on the exam? I think there's an argument to be made about that because it's just too much. There's too much operating systems. That's why. And being able to do that, that becomes a little bit more of a challenge to do that and make that happen. That's not how that's going to work. And have that there. So that's why you have Vista on there. It seems like it's pointless. How many Windows 10 users? Total users, almost 16,000 Windows 10 users. So that should give you a perspective. So quite a huge difference over Windows 8. There's more than twice as many Windows 10 users than Windows 8.1 users, but more Windows 7 users, dramatically higher than any other individual operating system. In fact, all the other operating systems combined, Windows 7's clearly the number one in having that. For my streams, for those of you, we'll talk inside baseball for a little bit since somebody brought up OBS. OBS, I think, was the Open Broadcast System. What do they call that? Open Broadcast Software? Open Broadcast Software is OBS. It's an open source live streaming and recording software. I am familiar with it, only that I've seen it. I don't use it. The streaming that I do here is through my TriCaster. So you can see my TriCaster console in front of me. So I have actually commercial hardware that I've set up for these streams. All of my cameras are connected through coax back to a video switcher, a matrix switcher. And the matrix switcher is then providing that video into my TriCaster console, which is to my bottom left that you can't see. There's a rack down here. It's down there. And it's in this rack. And that's why I don't use software at all that's running on my workstation. Everything is running on a purpose-built platform, a purpose-built hardware that does all of the video switching. And I'm running SDI is the coax and the standard that I'm running, connecting all of them together. And so the TriCaster itself is what is actually doing the streaming software, and it's connecting to YouTube Live through the TriCaster directly. I keep meaning to upgrade that and stream through a third-party piece of software like Open Broadcast software, because I would be able to do 1080p. Because right now, if you look, I'm doing 720p on here, and I've got the bandwidth to be able to do that. It just isn't. It's just not there. I just don't have I have a machine ready to go. I just haven't done it. There's a few other things going on. That's what that is. Yes, the lights, the funny lights that are down here circling around. Those are video recorders from Blackmagic HyperDecks, and they've got 2 SSDs. I'm actually recording 2 video streams simultaneously. I'm recording the video stream you see, which on my screen down here, you can see 2 tiny little monitors in front of me. So you're seeing what's on the right screen. That's what's going out over the program. There's also a preview that I queue up what I want you to see, and then I hit a button, and then you see what's on that left screen. It switches effectively. And so whenever I'm recording, I record both of these. One, because I have them set up this way. Whenever I'm recording my video training sessions, that's how I set this up so that I can talk to the camera. It's recording the camera and the talking head on one of those, and it's recording what's on my front screen on the other of those. And then afterwards, I blend them together in some editing software where you've got the head, the picture in a picture, you've got the main screen there, and then I can do that. But by capturing both of them simultaneously. If I do need to go back and edit before I post this, I can move things around and change them. So, plus they're pretty lights. Who doesn't like pretty lights? You know what I'm saying? What point is it having hardware if there's no lights on the hardware? And the fact that they go in a circle, you can't beat that. That's what you want in technology. I mean, it is functional. I guess that's important, but it's more important that there's lights. Yeah, so I call them my Cylons, but yeah, I guess they could be Knight Rider. I guess they could be Kit. Sure, we can go with that. Having that there. I haven't checked back on the phone lines. I think we're okay. Maybe my phone lines are not doing a thing, or you're just tired of talking, which I can appreciate with those pieces. And I'm a bit not able to talk much anymore either. Losing my voice finally. That's usually what happens after a couple of hours, right? And having that there is finally getting the voice to go. I think that's probably what I want to be able to do as well. One of these days, I mentioned I am going to document what I've got in here, and I just have to get through the 902 videos. I've got about, how many sessions? I've got about 4 or 5 sessions of me sitting down. So 4 or 5 days worth of video recording until all of the videos are done for the 902 course. And then after that, I edit, we post. I've got other things to do after that, but I want to get a video done that shows all of this nonsense I have in here, just so you can kind of get a feel for how all of this fits together. Plus, a lot of people ask about it. They want to do their own videos. How would they do it? And you don't have to have a setup like this to make your own videos. You can do it very simply, a laptop and with the built-in camera, and you're good to go. There's ways you can do that as well. It's one of those whenever I start working with them and having that there. Very useful. Last question. A very common question. Do you think someone can clear the A+ by just watching my videos? You could. I don't recommend it. I don't know why anybody would use a single source of materials for something as important as a certification exam. Get your hands on as many materials as possible. Books are so inexpensive. And in some cases, go to your local library where they have access to technology book libraries as well. Most local libraries these days have access to other types of online digital libraries. You may not even realize this, but the local library is free, and there might be A+ books that you can use that are in there as well. I think that'd be a great way to take advantage of your library, and you've got study materials as well. Even if you have to buy the book, it's easy to have that there. So you could use my videos. I don't recommend it to use any single source. Use as many sources as you can. A lot of people have done that as well. They've used just my videos and passed their exam. I don't. In fact, if you go to professormesser.com/FAQ, frequently asked questions, I even have a video about this where I say you could, but I don't. Why would you do that? That doesn't even make sense on anybody's single bit of information. Don't do that. For people in the chat room asking if you can donate, I don't take donations, so no, you can't. Sorry, I just don't like taking donations. If you think that you can, I like to give you something. If you're going to help me, I want to help you. So if you think the exam course notes, maybe that's what you purchase. That goes a long way to keeping things running around here. I can't even explain how important those are. Thank you so much for all of that. That's the best way. I have considered doing something like a Patreon, but this model I don't think quite fits for Patreon and what Patreon's trying to do. So not exactly what I want to be able to do either. Maybe if I can come up with something additional that I can do every week, that might be it. But no, I don't think so. There's the 800 series, 900 series are so close to each other. Whenever you're planning to study, if you're going to take the 900 series exam, get everything that you can in 900 series. This actually was something on Reddit this week. Somebody mentioned that they went in to take their exam and they didn't pass it. And then they talked about what they did to study. And near the end, they said, I took the 800 series exam, but I had a 700 series book. So I read the 700 series book and I took the 800 series exam. And I thought, why would you do that when the books are so inexpensive and in some cases free, and the material that's on the 700 maps a good bit over to the 800, but you know what? It maps just enough, doesn't map that now you've got a problem when you walk into the exam. You've missed a whole section, and you've now learned about, Windows 2000 or whatever it is in the older books. Why would you do that? Don't do that. Don't do it. Yes, I should have layer 3 switch t-shirts. You people have been watching for a while, haven't you? There is good material for the virtual machines. From a virtual machine perspective, you should go to a website called modern.ie. HTTP. This will redirect you to Microsoft's website that is a developer website. And on this developer website, there's a tools pull-down menu. And in this tools pull-down menu is a virtual machines. Microsoft will give you for development, non-production work, Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10 in a virtual machine ready to go. So you can download VirtualBox, download the VirtualBox version of the operating system you want, and in minutes be running that operating system. So it's a free way to get your hands on every operating system you need to know for your A+ certification. Done. No money, $0. I think it's a great way to do it. Modern.ie. It's been around for a while. It's primarily used by developers. The license requires you do not use these for production use, but I saw nothing. I read through all of the licensing for these virtual machines, and there's nothing in the licensing that would prevent you from using these for virtual machine use for study for your exam, which is great. Now you've got Microsoft operating systems immediately available to you. All the ones you need. And even Windows 10 if you want it. Play around with that. Why not? Being able to work with those. Do you really have an A+ book that talked about reading the resistor band colors? Really? Oh, man. You know, there was, I need to take a picture in the back. You see this, there is an NLX motherboard. This goes back a couple of versions of the CompT exam that's behind me. It's always just been sitting there because it has these enormous capacitors on it. I need to take a picture of those capacitors, put it on Instagram today. So you can, that's a good reason to follow me on Instagram, professormesser.com/Instagram. I'll stick those capacitors on there today so you can see it. Some of this old stuff I just keep sitting around. So it's there. I think I put my Windows, I think I put my compact, my iPac, I booted up and put a screenshot of that onto Instagram too, just because it's sitting around. Why not starting it up? Last few questions. Isn't that what I said earlier? Do I plan on coming up with Server Plus exam videos in the near future? I plan on having some other training materials in the near future. I don't know what those will be yet. I do know what those will be. I'm not telling you. Why would I lie to you? I know exactly what I'm doing over the next 12 months. I'm just not saying yet. It probably won't be Server Plus though. Probably not. There's just not a lot of people asking about Server Plus for those, being able to work through those, and being able to have those there. But there's some good stuff coming. Oh, there is some stuff coming that I'm working on. But probably not Server Plus. No, sorry. But there'll be some good things. You'll like them. I promise. There will be plenty to go through coming up. Well, this brings us to the end of another 2 hours plus of the A+ study group. Thanks everybody for joining me in the chat room. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the phone calls. Thanks for joining me live with the Q&A. I could not do it without you. And thanks for your continued support throughout the month. If you're watching this next month or next week at exactly the same date and time, Wednesday of next week is the Network Plus study group. And that's probably where you can see us live again. That's our next live event. The week after that's Security Plus study group. And then we're almost through January and February, and the year's almost gone. What just happened? I have no idea. But we'll do another one of these next month as well. Check in on the professormesser.com/calendar to see when the next study group is going to be that you would like to attend. We'd love to have you here. It's always a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me this time. We'll see you next month on the A+ study group. Thanks, everyone.